Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I'm going to talk about the most feared topic, which is interviews. In particular, speech and language graduate school interview. So if you're here for a topic, you're in the right place, and hello and welcome to my channel. I'm going to discuss about my experience of the interview, how I felt before, during and after the interview, the questions they asked during the interview, and also what I wish I knew before the interview. Alright, so a backstory about me. I live in New York City and I applied to 5 schools in New York City and 3 schools out of state. So basically only 2 out of the 8 schools that I applied to requires an interview. The 2 schools are Queens College in New York City and also Boston University. Those 2 schools require an interview. And do I like that they require an interview? No, I don't like interviews, but you know, you just have to do it because it is what it is. Okay, so my experience before graduate school interview. So a week before my interview, I wasn't like super scared. I wasn't like, having nightmares or anything. I was just very chill. I was just like, oh, interview next week? Okay, whatever. Mainly because for Boston University, I'll be honest here because, okay, this is an honor safe place. For Boston University, I was just like, it's so expensive. I need to move out, and like, I'll just do my best for the interview because I wasn't really hoping to get in anyway. And I know it's a very hard school to get in. I'm like, I'll do my best. So I wasn't really super scared, and I only researched the school one day before because I wasn't really excited about the school. So yeah, if you are excited about the school, please research the school in advance. Don't be like me, okay? But anyway, so my experience. So 1 week before, I was like, whatever, okay. And then the day before the interview, I was getting scared. I was like, I want to get in because I just want to get in, but I don't even want to go. So I'm just like, it's like I want to do my best in the interview. I don't want to screw up the interview. And so I was very, very nervous like the day before the interview. It was the same for both Boston University and Queens College. Queens College, I was more scared because I wanted to get into Queens College a lot more than Boston University. Because Queens College is just here, very close to my house, don't have to move anywhere. Boston is like, obviously I have to move. Moving is a pain. Okay, it's a pain. During the interview, like 10 minutes before the interview, I was just sweaty, my hands are sweaty. And then when I get nervous, I get this thing like my throat gurgles a lot and I feel like I want to vomit, I want to puke because I was just nervous. But then I was just like calming myself down, I was just breathing, right? And then like just calming myself down and just talk to myself saying that even if I get rejected, it's not the end of the world. And then during the interview, it was just very relaxed during the interview. So now I'll talk about what they ask during the interview for each school respectively, and also like how the interviews work. So basically, the interviewers, they were very, very nice, very personable, and they're like not very intimidating. They don't be like, hey, you know what is this, what is that? It's not like they interrogate you. Even though they are interrogating you, but then they're like doing it in a very kind, polite, and like friendly way. It's not like a police officer asking you questions like, hey, where you park, do you have a summon ticket? Okay, yeah, I'm going off tangent here. Anyway, so during the interview for Boston University, they asked a lot of like pandemic related questions because the pandemic happened. And okay, so I'm gonna go over what they asked for the interview questions for Boston University. So when I first entered, they were like, oh, so tell me more about the last time you applied to Boston University up until the time now. What have you been doing for those months? So then I told them like what I've been doing, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, interesting. And the next question, they asked about, tell me about the pros and cons of social media. So I love that question because like I can talk a lot about social media. So I just talk about that. And then they also asked the question of the pros and cons of the pandemic and the major consequence of the pandemic. So that question was like, I can answer it, but it threw me off a little bit because like the major consequence of the pandemic, I was just like, okay. Anyway, next question they ask, your views on cultural competency and why is it important in this field. So it's a main theme of cultural competency. They will always ask you that. For the last question, they asked me some very light-hearted question like, what are your hobbies, what do you like to do in your free time, kind of question. So that's good. That question is easy. I'm just like, oh yeah, I like to hike, I like to play tennis, I like to, yeah, just say whatever you want to say for that. And next, for Queen's College, they asked me a different set of questions, but also there's a similar theme to it. They asked me first question, why? Oh yeah, so for Queen's College, they have a group interview. So for mine, it's an interview with 2 other girls. So we have 3 interviewees and 2 interviewers. So for group interview, it wasn't really super intimidating. It wasn't like really competitive, like you need to speak before everyone else speaks, because the interviewer will ask each person to elaborate. So you're not like fighting with each another to speak. So you have a chance to speak, which is good, because I was always scared that I have to fend myself for this group interview, but it's not that bad. So, they asked me like, why do you want to be a speech and language pathologist? And what is the one thing you learned from the pandemic? And how do you deal with breaking bad news to a parent? How do you see yourself being culturally competent? My advice here. So my advice for those of you who are going to take an interview for your graduate school, so this is common theme. They always ask about like cultural competency and what's your view on cultural competence and why is it important to be a speech and language pathologist. And my advice, if you don't know how to answer a question, you know what you do is, a trick that I do is I trick myself to be confident. So I'm just like, oh, if the person's asking me a question I don't know. So for example, for the Boston University, they asked me a question like, what is the major consequence of the pandemic? I was just like, the major consequence. So I really don't know how to answer the question. I'm just like moving my hands and then like speaking in a way that I look like I know what I'm talking about. So you just like this, and then the interviewer will be like, oh wow, she knows what she's talking about. But actually in my heart, I'm like, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just saying some bull crap to make myself look like I know what I'm saying and I'm confident. So one trick is to do that, but don't be aggressively like this. Just be like assertive with what you say, but don't be overly compensating. You know what I'm saying? You find a sweet spot. Okay, find a sweet spot, and then remember to research the school and ask them questions at the end. So at the end, they will always ask you, do you have any questions for us? You don't be like, nah. Don't do that, okay? You have like maybe 2 questions to ask them so that you look like you're prepared and you actually research the school. But don't ask them like stupid questions, be like, hey, guys, so like how many years is this program? Don't ask them stupid questions. Ask them questions that are not in the website, okay? So that you look like you did your research. And number 3 is don't be too tense, okay? Just be yourself. Just let your personality shine, because they don't want to be having robots in their class, okay? They don't want to be like having these stiff human beings in the class. You just want to be yourself and just don't be so robotic, so serious. And another advice I have is, before your interview, you might find it helpful to have some questions and answers ready. So for example, generic questions like, why do you want to be a speech and language pathologist? Just have some bullet points ready, so that when they ask you that question, you know what you want to say. And even if they don't ask you that question, you have something to fall from, you know, that you can derive your answers from for your answers before. So just don't go completely blank. Obviously, you want to be a bit prepared, right? Even if you don't want to go to that school, you want to be at least a bit prepared for the interview so that you don't look dumb. And yeah. Now, what I wish I knew before the interview, I should stop overthinking my answers. So like after the interview, I would typically overthink my answers, and then like in my head I'd be like, I shouldn't say that thing. That thing sounds so dumb. Oh my god, I shouldn't say this, I shouldn't say that. I should say this, I should say that. And then just things that I cannot change. And then if you keep thinking and dwelling on that stuff, it will drive you mad and crazy. So you don't want to do that. So you just try not to think about your answers and be like, what's done is done, and go for a walk or something like that. Go for a run, go look at the scenery in the park, and then forget about your problems. Just don't dwell on your answers, okay? Because that's not a very mentally healthy thing to do. Number 2, the thing I wish I knew is that I wish I knew that the interviewers were very nice and friendly. I don't know if it's the same for all schools, but for mine, the interviewer was very, very personable, very friendly, and it didn't feel very intimidating at all. Although I know that I was being judged every single moment of the time, but I know that it doesn't really feel like they're all up in your face, you know. It doesn't really feel very scary. It just feels like you're having a conversation with somebody else, but then like somebody else is actually like judging every move. But then don't think about it. Just think about it. They're just normal human being who are just talking to you. So you just talk back at them, okay, like your normal human being. Normal interaction, okay, nothing to be scared about, right? So the interview is the waiting game. That's the worst part, you know, like just waiting to get rejected. That's the worst part. So you just wait, and wait. So until now, I'm still waiting for my decision from Queen's College. I'm still waiting. I'm ready to get rejected, but that's okay. You just wait, and then wait until you grow old. Basically, the point is to keep your mind off the waiting thing and do something else. So keep yourself busy so that you don't keep like thinking about the time, okay, the acceptance letter will come, because it will come, okay, it will come. You just don't have to think about it. The more you think about it, the more you're like, oh, I wish that day would come sooner. But then once the day comes, you're like, oh, now what? So just be present in the moment, be happy where you are right now, because if you don't appreciate where you are right now, even if you're there, you won't even appreciate it, because you need to know how to appreciate being in a moment. So even when you're waiting, just look at the fresh air, look at the birds and be like, wow, I appreciate these birds flying in the air. Just appreciate every single moment, okay? Yeah. For getting waitlisted or rejected doesn't mean that you are not worth it, okay? It doesn't mean that you suck, okay? It just means that the schools are competitive, or that they have a selective number of people they can accept, so they cannot accept you. But you got waitlisted, so that means you're good enough, but then you're not that good enough, you know what I'm saying? So that means that just don't measure your self-worth based on your school's acceptance, because you are a lot more than that. That's what I can say, my advice to all of you. And if you're really nervous, watch this video again and try to calm your nerves, because like I'm here, that means I survived the interview, and even if you get rejected, that's whatever, right? Life goes on. That's not the end of the world. Live a life. Graduate school is just a piece of your life journey. This is your life. This is graduate school. This is your life. It's your graduate school. Okay, so think about it in big picture and be like, oh, this is not that bad after all. But then try your best. Even if it's not that bad, you try your best, okay? But then even if it doesn't work out, that's fine. I hope this helps you guys in some kind of way, and I hope my experience kind of shed some light into the graduate school interview process. And I really hope that you guys crush your interview. I will keep you guys updated on my graduate school application acceptances or denials journey. And then also, if you want to watch more of my video, make sure to subscribe, because I'll make future vlogs about graduate school in my channel. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to hear more from me. Alright, so I'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next one. Bye!